All right, it's getting back with new old, not meaning an age, but old friends that we've known for a while. Dr. Nancy O'Reilly and author extraordinaire Gloria Felt. Great to see you guys.
Morning. Good afternoon, wherever you're seeing this from. Hello.
Good day, eh? As they would say.
Good day. Yes.
We usually have that too. It's good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. How are you?
Yeah.
But that's what's great about the world right now. So no, I'm really thrilled that you're able to join us on our Leaders Who Care series. And I know from knowing you both, I know the insights and the experiences and the little treasures that everybody are going to get out of this are going to be like a lot of fun and super educational, informative, and valuable. So not unusual. Best way to start would be if you could just briefly introduce yourself. Don't tell everything because I still have some questions, but about who you are, maybe family, where you're from, stuff like that, and then we'll get into it. So you want to do rock, paper, scissors, shoot as to who goes first, or?
Well, let's do alphabetical. So Gloria goes first.
Oh, well.
I wasn't going to say age before beauty.
Yeah.
Order.
Nice
fair.
punt there. Nice punt there, Nancy. Thank you. Thank you. Mark, glad to be with you. I'm Gloria Felt. I am co-founder and president of Take the Lead. We are as Nancy would say, social profit organization that has the very small mission of achieving gender parity in leadership by 2025. And I'm sure one of the things we'll talk about is what the pandemic has done to that goal. And I actually am very optimistic about it. So I'm looking forward to talking with you about that. Yes, you mentioned that I'm an author. I have a new book, which is behind me here. So everybody look at it, everybody buy it, please. At any place you get your books, you can get Intentioning: Sex, Power, Pandemics, and How Women Will Take the Lead for Everyone's Good. And every word in that title has a meaning, and look forward to talking with you about that as well. Where I began was in small Texas towns. So, like the first part of my life was like The Last Picture Show, and then it was Friday Night Lights. And then I went to Arizona, and now I'm in New York mostly, and sometimes Arizona. So, it's been a wild ride, Mark. It's been a wild ride. Here we are.
Well, at least you were intentional about all that, right?
No, actually, I wasn't. I have to confess that it's a little bit paradoxical that somebody who has been totally not intentional about her entire life and career is writing a book called Intentioning. But on the other hand, they say you write the book you need to read.
There you go. Absolutely.
Yes. Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks for starting that, Nancy.
Yes, well, and also intentioning is a word that Gloria invented. So just like brain freeze, now we have intentioning. So we'll have to get used to that name. But it's a great book, and yes, I urge everybody to go out and purchase that book. All right, Dr. Nancy O'Reilly. I am a licensed psychologist. I am also the founder and CEO of Women Connect for Good. .org, and it is a social profit organization, and it's a very simple mission as well. Women supporting the efforts of other women's, their passion, what they're making the world a better place. Also, men as well too. Our male allies are extremely important. As far as my background, I was born in the South, Atlanta, Georgia. My father worked for Federal Aviation, so we moved wherever he was transferred. So Washington, D.C. was the last stop. And I was just there for a wonderful meeting. But growing up with history and storytelling has always been extremely important. So podcasts, we have a brand new audio podcast. And of course, the most important thing that we're doing right now, besides the books In This Together and Women Leading and so forth, is the hashtag Lift Women Up campaign, which is really probably the one thing that we're working so hard on to, again, if every woman every day lifted another woman or lifted as she rose, or even another person, man or woman, just think what the world would be like and what a better world we would live in if we all just lifted someone up each and every day of our lives. So that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
I knew that was coming. And by the way, you have some beautiful horses, and but my favorite are the two beautiful dobies.
Yes, well, and that was again the as they say, the next chapter in my life. I went through a time in my life that I needed a new friends, new people, new things in my life. So I started riding. I bought my first horse in 2012. 2014, I showed my horse for the first time. And since then, it's been a rapid growth to multiple horses. And I bought an equestrian center 3 years ago. So Southern California Equestrian Center is my passion, and is my love. And we're getting ready to go to a big horse show in Tulsa. And I'm taking 11 horses there. And we're going to go up there and show and tell, and really hopefully have a good show with all the other experienced riders and beautiful. I've never seen an ugly Arabian, half Arabian. So I'm excited about that. But that really is what I get up in the morning, and I'm actually at the barn right now. And so that's the first thing I do, is see horses in the arena, and it always makes me smile.
Well, I don't know if this is appropriate, but I'm Jewish and I've never seen an ugly Arabian. So, there you go.
I don't think horses, I think, are colorblind, and they don't have anything. They don't know anything. They're all about gender equity and
the dobies I love come from Germany. So I think we're all good. Actually.
Good. All good. We're all good. I was expecting Nancy to say, since she's lived a lot of her life in Washington, D.C., the saying that they say about, if you want a friend in Washington, get a dog. So that's, yeah, I was expecting that next.
I've never really looked at it that way, but I've got a 13-month-old Doberman. I can guarantee you she is now a show dog. She won a blue ribbon, but she is she is a pistol, absolute pistol. There isn't a day that I can't get up and go, okay, here we go. But no, Dobermans have been very special in my life, and always having two. And now I've got a puppy and actually her aunt. So they are related, but they keep me on my toes too.
Yeah, I had two dobies, and we had two min pins, and we have one min pin left that's 17, and they're incredible. So anytime you need someone to take care of the dobies, you let me know.
Well, you're on. I mean, yeah, absolutely.
So you both have had interesting journeys, and I noticed you both started with sociology plus way back then. And before we deeper, I know this is somewhat of a usual question. People ask all the time, "What's your why?" I'd like to know when you discovered your why and why you do what you do. So we'll go back to you, Gloria.
Well, it's easy for me to tell you the answer to that question. I became involved in the civil rights movement in the 1960s, and even in Odessa, Texas, there were a few of us, surprisingly enough. And I noticed a couple of things. First of all, I will ever be grateful to the civil rights movement for teaching me, and I think all of us, that people working together, even if they have no formal power, can make anything happen, can make change. And that was an incredibly important lesson that I learned that has guided me the rest of my career. And the second thing I noticed was that the women were doing all the frontline work, and the men were in all the leadership positions, and they were the ones who got all of the credit. And I thought to myself at the time, and this is another part of the awareness, it was like, wait a minute, if there are civil rights, women must have them too. And yeah, I mean, seriously, I had to wake up to that, because, I grew up in a culture where women were not given even aspirations for careers. So if you went to college, they said it was to get your MRS. So, that's what you were supposed to do with your life. And so it really was at that point that I think I found my why became making sure that doing everything I could to make sure that women have equal rights and equal positions and power in this world. And it's been a long and interesting road.
No kidding. What about you, Nancy?
Well, mine is really pretty personal. I probably, I mean, I really am surprised when I see myself talking with an amazing group of people like yourself about women, gender equity, gender equality, women empowerment, because I really started out as a tomboy. I did not like being a girl. I couldn't see anything positive about being a girl. I still remember when my Santa Claus brought me my first Barbie doll. I looked at her and I went, that's never going to happen in my life. And so really, basically, you know, boys didn't come to my house to date me. They came to play softball, kickball, or some other sport. So that was really kind of what I was enjoying more. Is I still remember my older sister, Stephanie, she says, Nancy, when are you ever going to be a girl? And I thought, well, what does that mean? So what I figured out, I went home and put rollers in the very front of my hair on both sides. That was about the best I could come up with. But you know, fast forward college, love and marriage and baby carriage. And, you know, I never really expected to get married and I never really expected to have children. But I did. And my first child was a daughter. I never expected to have girls. My second child was a daughter and my third was a daughter as well. So I started to get the picture. I was already working in the care, you know, in the helping profession. So it became very clear to me, God, she's got a great sense of humor. I said, Nancy, do you understand that first of all, you've got to empower yourself. And then you've got these daughters and being a woman is going to be extremely important for them to see you in a positive, empowered position. And so I wanted to make sure I left a legacy for them and for many women to feel empowered, feel good about being a woman and having their place and having their voice in our society. And so that's basically what I've been doing ever since. And then, you know, of course, running into other women and other organizations like Take the Lead, it's been about collaboration and connecting. But really, you know, I guess it's one of those aha moments that finally, you know, I had to figure out what it was going to be for me being a woman. And then, of course, helping my own daughters, as I'm still doing today, and their daughters and sons to fit into this world. But again, working and supporting one another and making this world a better place.
Yeah, it's interesting how we just go along with the flow, because my mom was a mom at home, didn't work. She actually didn't drive. And it was what it was almost, right? And so we need people to say, well, what about this and what about that? Or why, you know, like a little kid, why is the sky blue? Well, because of this. Yeah, but why? Well, because this. Yeah, but why? Because of that. But why? And to change those things. And you guys are doing it. There's a reason this is called Leaders Who Care, because my whole life I've been talking to executives about what's about this, you know, getting the best talent or doing this or whatever they're doing. And it always came up to we need to care more. But they never really did. They never even thought about it. And it's taken decades to get to this time, whether it's corporate or family offices or any organization, to realize that if they invested, if they align their marketing and investment dollars, as well as philanthropic, to impact like gender equality, like empowering women and others, then holy cow, this might be good for business and maybe even getting the best talent to work with us and they'd stay with us. So can you share with us, you're doing great work. Can you share with us the work you're doing overall to empower women in that way? And also I'd like you chat while you're doing that a little bit about the evolution of the way these leaders have been thinking to get to this point finally. So maybe Nancy, we go with you first.
Well, I'm going to go back to what's going on right now, which is the pandemic. And, you know, right now it's an interesting time. There are many people that do not want to go back to work. And there are people that are working from home right now that really don't want to go back into the traditional workforce setting. And so, I think we're at a time that we're really beginning to understand, and I think corporations are beginning to understand the most important asset that they do have are the people that work for them.
Right.
And of course, the ones that are continuing to work, these are your assets. These are the people that you really need to be looking at as far as especially women in management positions, because we know over and over again, when women are in top leadership positions, companies are profitable. So I think companies are going to get smarter, and those that are still in business and are still running their operations, I think have figured out that it's not only the relationships within the company, but it's the relationship outside the company. As I said, everything is inside out. So, I mean, I think this is going to be a wonderful time for those that are smart enough to look around, and leaders that do care and do understand that the most important thing is their assets are the people that they work with, not work for, but the people that they work with, who basically, I think the key is also ownership. You know, if people feel ownership with the mission and what you're doing in your company, and they feel a part of making a difference, they're going to be accountable. They're going to be productive, and they're going to be, again, an asset in the corporation.
So I expect, Gloria, you probably agree with most of what she said, right?
I do, and I will jump onto it with a few additional things. I'm going to start with something that might be a little counterintuitive, and that is that I actually never use the word empower when I'm talking about women, because to the contrary, I believe that women have the power. We don't always know it. And so I see so much of my mission, and the mission of Take the Lead, is to start with helping women know the amount of power they already have. And just to give you some examples, and I think, you know, it really ties in with what Nancy was saying about companies needing to have women back in the workforce, and needing to have everybody back in the workforce for that matter, and why it's a valuable thing for the business community. But, you know, women have been earning 57% of the college degrees now for decades. So we are prepared in an economy that is based on brains, not brawn. That is not a small matter. Women have, we have the power of the purse if we choose to use it, because most of the family decisions about where money is spent are either influenced by or decided by women. 85%. That's a global figure. That's not just the US. Mm-hmm. We have the power of, I think, of timing right now, because between the Me Too movement, the Black Lives Matter movement, and I actually see the disruption of the pandemic as being potentially a help if we use it, but we have to use it. It kind of goes back to what I said at the beginning. People working together can change anything, but you have to work together, and you have to decide you want the change. And I think, to Nancy's point, that if companies want to continue to thrive and get the benefit of what we now know is the strong business case for having more women in leadership and having more diversity in leadership in general, then they're going to need to make some of the changes that women have been saying needed to be made for a long time. And so the pandemic has shown everybody that, you know what, we can work from anywhere. Look at us. You know, look at where we are. We can work from anywhere and any time and still get our work done. So more flexible hours are not only possible, but maybe it's actually a good business practice. We can do that. And I the thing that I'm so astonished with right now, and, you know, maybe we'll get this all passed this year and maybe we won't, but it's coming. And that is to understand that caregiving is infrastructure. Mm-hmm. I mean, that is, to hear those two words together, uttered together, is not something I ever thought I was going to hear in my lifetime in this country, where many other countries have figured it out a long time ago. But I think that the disruption of the pandemic is really an opportunity for innovation, creativity, rebirth, rethinking of almost everything. And I believe we have the power to do it, but things don't just happen. I think we're all three here because we're doers, and we like to join together and make things happen. And that's really the key. It doesn't just happen.
Well, it's interesting, and it's maybe, I don't know if it's the first time I thought about this, but when you said that caregiving is part of infrastructure, it's always been part of infrastructure when women were expected to stay home and run everything. That was kind of caregiving infrastructure too.
Unpaid, yes, unpaid, yes.
Unpaid, yeah, the worst kind. But if you think about it, and it's the first time I phrased it this way, because of what you said, the infrastructure, that wasn't a big part of our infrastructure in holding down the fort and taking care of everything while the guy went out to work. So no one should disagree with the fact that is social infrastructure. So it's a great point. You know, things have changed a lot. I remember when I started at Deloitte, I had a woman who was a senior manager moving towards partner. and she was awesome for me. She worked on 5 major clients, of which I worked on 3 for her. Long story short, she got pregnant, and she asked if she could come back and only work on 3 clients, and they'd only have to transition 2 to other people. Made sense. The 3 clients would never know any difference, because when she worked full time, she worked on 5 in those 3. But they said, no, that's not how we do it. You're either in or you're not, type of thing. Speaking about change, right? And she left. Business-wise, what a ridiculously stupid thing to do, business-wise, whatever your thinking is or whatnot. And now they had 5 clients then to transition and do a whole thing because she wasn't there. So sometimes we just stick to it because that's the way it's always been done, and it doesn't mean it's right. And there's a great saying, I'm sure you've heard it: if common sense was common practice, it'd be wonderful. Didn't make any sense, but if you brought up Me Too and all that, there's a lot of now talk about systemic change, not only for women, but we're working on anti-racism and things like that. And from things like, now Deloitte, by the way, is a great company now when it comes to this type of stuff, but there was a lot of that stuff before that wasn't. But even the horrible stories like a Weinstein or now R. Kelly and things like that are making, for some, people should not be defined by things that happen to them. But I'd like to hear your thoughts about the need for systemic change in the halls of the corporates. And when we say corporates shouldn't do this, corporate do that, it's really the leaders that shouldn't do this or shouldn't do that because the corporate can't talk. But in the halls and in sense of attracting and onboarding female leaders and employees, because I'll tell you, and then I'll stop talking, the one question I get from women a lot when we're just searching for top people is, I can do the job bar none 100%, and we wouldn't present them otherwise. Am I going to get the opportunity to work on the big projects? Am I going to be opportunity to be ambitious in that, get recognized for it, et cetera, et cetera? So I'd like to get your thoughts on all that's happening with respect to opportunities, with respect to standing up, men and women, for what's right.
Let me jump in there, because when you start to look at your workforce, the people that work within your company, one of the most important things is that person going to feel that they're with their peers, with like-minded people? One of the problems with companies is, before the pandemic, and probably even more so than now, is that the talent oftentimes walks out the door. And without a good exit interview, oftentimes you don't really know. But oftentimes you'll find that person did not feel they were appreciated. They did not get the jobs that they want. They weren't put in positions that they could thrive, and they were not around people that they felt like like themselves. So diversity and inclusion, and Gloria mentioned that, is going to be key, and it's going to continue to be key, that we surround ourselves. Now, the ideas that come from people from different backgrounds and different cultures, and you bring it into a corporation, is phenomenal. The ideas and the creativity can be so very, very valuable. So I think companies, if they have not looked at their diversity and of course the inclusion within their corporation, are already behind the curve. But I think the ones that are doing a good job now are surrounding themselves with people of all different backgrounds. And again, that gender equity is so important, but that there really is that mindset that I'm working with people that I feel that we're on the same page, we have the same mission, and we're going to accomplish the same goals, and we're all going to own and enjoy the benefits of what we're doing to make the world a better place. And I think that, again, is going to be key. Companies that are truly do have a bottom line, how are they going to make a difference? How are they going to be accountable to their customers and to the people they work with, to really show that they're making a difference in the world? Because right now we need things to be more positive, and we need people to feel good. We have not felt good for some time. So I think the point is that we're going to have to start doing some feel good things within the companies and with the customers as well.
Yeah. I think that Nancy, one of the points that you're making is so critically important. It always has been, but now more than ever, because people are saying, if I don't get this, I'm just leaving. And that is to feel that they have a sense of purpose in their work. Yeah. And one of the things the pandemic has done to everybody is to make us sit back and think about what really matters in life.
Right.
What really matters. It is, this small amount of time that I have on this earth, am I going to be spending it doing something that will actually make a difference for myself, for my family, for my country, for other people? I mean, I think this is a moment of that kind of reckoning. One of the things that is troubling to me lately is the data about companies that jumped on the Black Lives Matter bandwagon last year and now are backing away, or at least they've kind of stopped doing whatever they said they were going to do, or they're not fulfilling their pledges and that sort of thing. And frankly, as a woman who has been raising money for women's work and women's advancement for all these years, I can tell you that it's the hardest thing in the world to raise money for. And companies are not jumping onto the bandwagon to say, when you see these laws against women's reproductive rights in Texas and everywhere else, you're not seeing companies jump onto that bandwagon even to make an utterance. I think that it's time for us to particularly call to action the female executives who could not be where they are if it hadn't been for the work that has been done to create the path for them to be able to be there. I think it's time for us to actually issue some kind of call to action. So I'm thinking it's time to make a big statement about that. You can't, I mean, none of us gets, and Nancy, your Lift Women Up program is exactly what this is about. Nobody gets to be a success by themselves.
No.
Nobody. So I say it's time to call to action the female executives who are become, thank goodness, now raving successes in many different places, in many different ways, more Fortune 500 female CEOs than ever before, women first, more female entrepreneurs are getting their companies big enough to go public. I mean, there's some great news out there. We need to call those women to action, is they need to help the next wave of women to succeed.
That's a great point by both of you, because I've had conversations with leaders of companies for a while now that even if we do put all these women into leadership positions, if there's no mid-management coming up behind them to move into those, you're going to end up back in the same place again. So lifting up definitely does mean putting women in the other positions, mentoring them, and more than mentoring, even championing for them to move ahead, really does make a difference. So, and it's kind of the same with girls, not just women too, right? That's what you're talking about?
Well, Gloria and I talk about this all the time, where, you start with the girls. Well, you start with the boys and the girls. Actually, you start with the mothers. The mothers, let me just, I'm going to put the psychological piece in here for a moment, but women, I'm going to speak as a woman because I'm around it. And Gloria and I have experienced this, both of us, as far as sometimes women can be really awful to one another. There's no doubt about it. But oftentimes this bias comes from our own experience of being a woman. So I think the thing is that women have to get real clear about who they are and what they want in this world. And I absolutely believe that there are a lot more of us than there were when we started, Gloria. I mean, believe me, I think I used to be banging on my drum as hard as I could. And I didn't think anybody was out there listening as far as women's, gender equity. I mean, it was kind of like, oh, who is she? Why is she making all this noise? And of course, we've seen with women like Dr. Sheila Robinson and women of color that have joined together with one another because they've always done that as all along in their culture as well. But white women, we have to get together. I know some people I'm going to upset, but I really don't care anymore. But that white women have to support each other. And when we talk about corporations and we've got a white woman in a leadership position and she is not helping other women up the ladder, there's something wrong with that company. There's something wrong with that culture. And so those companies really need to take a look at why aren't they seeing more women rise within their corporations with talents and with abilities and with men and women lifting them up as they rise. So, I mean, again, the bias we have to deal with, but it comes from within. The women have to come from within on their own biases and come to terms with, and Gloria, I'm going to steal it, but it's the power to, not the power over that women have to understand. We've always had it. We're not borrowing it. We're not seeking it. We've always had it, but the power to make a difference. And women need to take charge of that. But they also need their male allies. We have to do this together. My book is called In This Together, and it really means everybody. It's not, we have to stop, parceling this group and that group, and all right, you're over here, you're over there. We've got to all come together. I feel that more and more every day that all right, I'm going to step down from the podium here in a minute, but we have to work together.
Well, and I think that, the not working together part often comes from a scarcity mentality that has been the narrative of history. And not to put too fine a point on this, but let's face it, who's written history for most of the last couple of millennia, at least? It's been men whose narrative of history has been about wars and fighting and the assumption that there are scarce resources. Well, we're now living in a time where that's not even functional. That's not even a functional way of thinking, because that's why one of the leadership intentioning tools in my book, Intentioning, is in fact believe in the infinite pie. Because once we can start to realize that the things that matter in our culture and our society today are infinite. There's no limit to intelligence. There's no limit to innovation. There's no limit to love. There's no limit to empathy. There's no limit to the things that leaders now need more than anything else. And so once we can let go, and I think this is why, Nancy, so many women aren't as helpful as they should be to other women. It's because they're functioning from that scarcity mentality. Right. They're feeling like, well, I got mine, so I can't let somebody else in. Well, no, if I help you and you help me, we both have more. We both can do better.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Every single time. One of the things when I speak with a group of women, oftentimes I'll say, you have to ask for what you want.
Indeed.
You have to ask for what you want. And again, you have to feel that you're deserving to have that. So it comes from that place of scarcity instead of the place of abundance. Say, ask for what you want, negotiate your salary. Women, we've got to get, we've got to get in there and negotiate. A man walks in and he goes, okay, I'm going to negotiate my salary. I'm going to negotiate my benefits and what my time off is, when I'm going to be promoted to the next position. Women need to understand they have the power to, but they have to negotiate for themselves and come from a place of abundance. I absolutely agree. We're going to be writing the history books. We have to. We have to rewrite the history books. There's so many universities that have dropped their women's studies programs. It's almost embarrassing to even think about it. But when our history is just as rich and valuable. Women need to know their mamas and they need to know their papas too. So we've got some work to do there. But that's kind of one of my fortes now, is working on the storytelling and making sure that we do tell the story of where we're coming from, not only from amazing men who have helped us to be who we are as Americans, but women also all over the world.
You guys remind me of when Jay Leno would talk about interviewing Robin Williams. He said, all I have to do is say, hey, Robin.
Well,
which is awesome for my job right now.
We've got a lot going on here,
But I love it. And there's just so much.
This is not new stuff. This is stuff that we're still going, where are we at? What do we do?
No, but you raised something I was going to say before, talking about abundance. There is an abundance of everything. And I remember one person a while back saying, they were deciding whether they should have more kids. And they said, well, how are we going to split up the love? Literally, they said, how do you split up the love? And I said, you don't split it up. It actually gets bigger, type of thing. Oh my gosh. But I understood where they were coming from. They didn't just mean love and everything, but it was true. How are we going to do this? And there is and I've seen it with women and minorities. There are other minorities. There is a thing about, there's one job available, so I'm competing against that woman type of thing, and that's scarcity. basically as well. If you're always competing, if you feel like there's only so many jobs to get or so many whatever to get, and you got to compete, then it becomes about me. But there's so much that's out there, and there's so many things you said. I wish I would have written them all down because I had comments on almost every one of them. It was fantastic.
Mark,
so-
we are our primary, Take the Lead and Women Connect for Good is a primary example of what needs to happen. We are collaborators, we are connectors, and we go out and collaborate and support and connect with other organizations that are doing similar things or doing things that we're not doing that we could be doing, and they're doing a better job doing them. And I think this again goes back to when women do come together and they do support each other. I surround myself with people that do things a lot better than I do, or things that I don't want to do. And it always works out better because at the end of the day, we all look pretty darn good, I mean, but because we're all doing the things that we're really good at and we really love to do. So, I mean, the key is really surrounding yourself and creating that network of collaborators and connectors. Like I said, the infinite pie, there is so much out there, but you have to think differently. You have to put your brain in a different place. And again, it's not about me. It's about what we can accomplish together, what we can do together. Because right now the world has got to be a better place for us all to live in, but we have to do that together.
To give you a really concrete example, and one that Nancy uses all the time, which is that Women Connect for Good raises the awareness and encourages women to lift each other up, and Take the Lead provides the direct training, coaching, role model programs, and thought leadership that are the sort of on the ground concrete tools that women then need to put into practice in order to reach parity, whether it's in power, pay, position, whatever it might be. You need all of that, and no one person, and generally no one group can do all of it, but if you kind of assess what you can each bring to the table, and you're open enough to share and figure out, okay, strategically, how can we do more if we join together in this? Then, I mean, I'm not just Pollyanna about this. It really is an everybody wins situation.
There's no doubt. And, I had a CEO tell me recently that this was a man, mind you, but he said, I'm having the most success and the most fun being a CEO that I've ever had because I'm able to be so vulnerable and not pretend that I know everything anymore.
Yes.
And it's right on. Again, common sense, common practice type of deal. You kind of went on something else I wanted to talk about, related obviously, is and started from negotiating. People will respect people that negotiate based on they believe they deserve what they should get.
Yeah.
People respect that, and it becomes a mindset of that's actually a good thing to do. Might be scary for someone who's never done it before at the beginning, but it's actually a good thing to do. And the person actually wants you, a good person actually wants you to do that, to substantiate why you deserve the raise, why you deserve to be on that project, why this, why that. And that becomes then a more norm if man or woman expects that man or woman to do that, coming into let's say a negotiation or whatnot. But you also talked about the tools, resources that you talk about on your podcast and in the book, and talk a little bit about, it's along the same lines, how people don't have to be, women, we're talking women in particular, it really applies to all, do not have to be defined by one good or bad thing they've ever done in their life, whether it's yesterday or especially 30 years ago. If they've changed. I've always enjoyed how politicians always blame the other side for flip-flopping, but if I'm a CEO and I get more information, please flip-flop, change your mind type of thing. Don't, but politicians don't do that. You have to supposedly believe the same thing forever to be a good politician. So talk about how you don't have to be defined by someone else or defined by maybe a mistake you made. And that leads to the part about what I talked about before, about being invited to work on big projects and not being afraid to make a mistake, but be ambitious to really do something great. So
Well, that goes back to asking for help. And that's something that women aren't very good at, is asking for help. You know, there's a great story about a woman who became a CEO and she really didn't have the credentials. But the one thing she was smart about was asking for help.
Mhm.
You know, I mean, isn't it really special? I mean, I had a woman come up to me and she said, you know, I really would like for you to mentor me. What an honor. What an honor for her to come up and ask me to come into her life and help her in any way, shape, or form. So again, that goes back to, you know, just asking for help and asking for what you need, but also offering help. How can I help you? So, I mean, it's all that psychological stuff, you know, and it's so interesting because there's always a time that you're going to go, you know, never burn a bridge, because you're going to have to cross that. You may need to cross that bridge at some point in your life. So it's always about those interconnections and that networking. But again, you have to ask for what you need and want, but you have to also offer to give help as well. So, you know what, Mark, I haven't finished learning. I don't know about you, but I think I've got a few chapters left. You know, when I'm through learning and growing, it's going to be time for me to make my exit. But I'm not ready. I've got more things to do. I've got to create the next generation of Arabian horses showing and driving, and I've got 3 stallions. I mean, you know, I have to learn a whole new business. But when I stop learning, and the same thing in a company, you know, every woman and man, if they aren't continuing to hone their skills and finding ways to improve their skills and working with other people to do that, then nobody wins. Nobody wins. It's a lose-lose for everybody.
And on that point, Gloria, the one thing I also find with talent, especially women, and African Americans as well, probably the same degree, is we represent really great. We find really great candidates for our clients. That's what we do, and we don't present crappy people. But so they're looking for, you know, they're looking for what's the differentiation of company A, B, and C, the leaders of those companies that I go there, and they're looking for not just we believe in diversity, that's nice, or, you know, oh, you have an ATM in your company, so you got something good for us. Or they want to know specifics. What do you have in your company that's going to make a difference for me to choose you? Whether it's, you know, we have a program called Nonflict, so they have a program for specific conflict resolution. So what would you advise with respect to what you've seen, tools and resources that companies should have, so that, you know, Jane, fantastic person, picks them over another company?
Well, the observation that we've made from working with women now for 10 years with our programs that focus on, first of all, helping women know the power they have, embrace it, and then determine what do they want to use their power to do, and then give them specific leadership tools and ways of thinking so that they can identify what their goals are, and then they can achieve them despite the fact that the world is not perfect for women in organizations as yet, but they will know how to deal with all of those things. So that's, I mean, after working with women for really like a decade with that particular program, the thing that I've noticed is how many women leave at mid-career precisely because they feel like the culture is not welcoming to them. And the same thing happens with any underrepresented group. First of all, they feel they need to cover and not be their real selves, their full selves. They feel like to fit in, they have to cover some aspect of themselves. And that after a while, that wears on you. It's just emotionally draining. It's very emotionally draining. The second thing is that while there are many reasons why diversity and inclusion programs succeed or fail, the thing that we've done at Take the Lead is to create our program that's called Creating a Culture of Inclusion, because we've found that turns out to be the single linchpin that we can help. Because if you can get even a few things into the culture of the organization that are specifically and explicitly designed to enable every person who's there to feel that they are recognized and seen and heard and respected, then they're going to be more likely to stay, and they're also going to be more likely to do better work.
Yeah,
and be
Agree.
happier at the end of the day. So that's one of the things that we've been focusing on, and it's a new resource that we have to offer companies.
No, I agree. But belonging is the thing that fills people's hearts and soul more than anything, and that's what people want. And so, just to conclude this segment, and this would be typical LA, you always leave them wanting for more, so you can do a sequel. That's what we do. So,
So ask me a question and then I'll say, I'm not going to tell you. How about that?
Yeah, you have to come back.
good. I like that mystery. So, just tell me in one line or less, if you will, what are you most hopeful for?
Ooh. Well, I mean, I'll say that. I mean, we have to work together. I think women, especially, if we are working together, not only can we, this is my story. You put 5 women in a room and they'll solve the problem. They'll come up with a budget and they'll get it done. I mean, when we come together and we literally work together, anything is possible. And I think that's what we need right now. We need people to understand when we're working together for the same cause, which is we've got to make this world a better place right now. We've got to get healthy. We've got to get women back to work. We've got to get everyone back to work. We've got to be a healthy, productive country again. I want to be proud to be an American again. I really do want to be proud to be an American again. So I think, again, working together and everybody understanding it's going to take us all to get there. All of us. Nobody gets anywhere alone. Nobody.
So true, Nancy. What I'm most hopeful for is that we will use this moment of disruption as a time of rebirth and reconnecting and innovation in a way that will enable us to do some of what Nancy was talking about. And if I can read between the lines, I think that you're also referencing, I mean, there's a sense of community that we need to reinstate that I know I got growing up from my family, that it's not just what we do for ourselves. It's also, we're part of this larger community, whether it's our business or our personal lives. So what I'm hopeful for is that we will be smart enough as human beings to take this moment of disruption as a moment of true rebirth and opportunity to let new ideas into our systems, to create healthier workplaces and healthier communities, and that every human being on the face of this earth, this is what I really hope for. I want every human being on the face of this earth to have the opportunity to give their greatest gifts to the world.
Great way to conclude this. I'm grateful for and hopeful because of having leaders who care like you. That's for sure. So thank you so much for being on and participating, and look for the sequel.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Mark. And again, I love this idea in this program. I mean, that leaders who care, because there really are a lot of people out there doing great things, and we need to recognize those people and celebrate them, but and lift those people, and they can lift as they rise as well. Mark, thank you. This was so fun. Good to see you, Gloria.
Thank you. Great to see you, Nancy, always. And Mark, thank you so much. Great questions. Really enjoyed it.
My pleasure. Thanks.